What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you here for another week of Every Day We're Covering, where we talk the world of sports, wagering, and having a good time. We are through the college basketball season. We have moved on now on the calendar. It's, I guess for us, normally the things that we talk about, and it becomes kind of the dog days, so to speak. A little bit of spring ball mixed in there. You start to, of course, hear a lot of transfer news, all that stuff that's been going on. That's been hot and heavy in basketball world for sure after the tournament ended. And then, of course, you start to hear about little rumblings and things, what's going on with football teams. We do have the NBA and NHL playoffs that have started to wet your whistle if you're still a want-to-watch competition person. But, yeah, a little bit of maybe the down season, so to speak. But we've got plenty to talk about here today, SJ.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that'll keep our attention, that's for sure. We're not, going to be totally, off the grid here, but it's, the things you really look forward to are a little bit behind us, but we'll have a nice couple months off and get going again. Football will be back before we know it. And what the draft's coming up here,
Yeah.
Right around the corner. And, we got NBA playoffs. I don't mind messing with that. I know you're in getting to the little bit of the hockey puck deal there too.
Yep.
So it'll be a decent next, month or so, and we'll have plenty of things. And there's, some fights here and there. I know it's been a little dicey here with this Netflix deals of getting these kind of clown shows, but it seems like there is some movement towards more of. It's fine if it's on there. I mean, that's good. We like that. The access is great, but give legitimate sport. We still got to keep it on that. At least to me, I want to watch that. I don't want to watch some either people have no business being in the ring with each other, or people who should have done it 20 years ago are doing it now. Like we don't need either one of those.
Yeah. Or celebrities that think they suddenly need to get involved in that world too. I mean, the world never has any lack of topics for us to discuss. There's always plenty of idiots out there for sure that bring up some topics, and then there's just always change in news. So we'll have plenty to dive into. But as we get rolling here on the show this week, we always, of course, like to talk about what we are drinking and what's powering us through the weekend. SJ, I think both of us kind of had a busy, spring sports weekend for our kids running around chasing stuff, but I'm sure you're able to squeeze a couple of beverages in there in between. What are we drinking this week?
Yep. This caught me off guard. I couldn't believe my own taste buds there. So I think I've talked about this place before, but Casual Animal Brewing, which is down in the Crossroads district here in town. I'm assuming I must have mentioned the sour they make, which is a hell of a great name, the Gesundheit. It's the guava mango sour, but I'm pretty sure that's the one I would have mentioned. But this time I have their hazy IPA, so that is not freaking up my alley at all. But I happened to just on a whim, give it a try, and I was like, man, I kind of like that. I'm gonna get me something to take home with me. So it's called King Curious if you're looking for the can or the exact name, but just the IPA they make 6.2 ABV, so a decent kick there. And honestly, it says hazy and stuff, but to me, as someone who's not kind of in that's not my go-to drink. It's actually a pretty easy drink there. Nothing where you feel like you're like it's overbearing, which is kind of the purpose. I mean, not the purpose, but that's kind of what you get with those type of drinks.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that at all. I was like, man, it was a hot day. I was like, and it wasn't like a deal where I'm like, sometimes you drink a few of other things and you drink that, and you're like, oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
First beer of the day, hot day, and I was like, man, this isn't that bad at all. So I was like, found one I liked. Maybe I'll be sticking with that for a little bit here in the next few weeks, or maybe throughout the summer. But definitely recommend that one, called the King Curious Hazy IPA Casual Animal.
See, we surprise ourselves sometimes.
Never know. Yeah, maybe I'm making a change. Who knows? It's like, well, you talk to those people sometimes, like they never like spicy foods or something. All of a sudden they like it.
Yeah.
Or the opposite, like they ate it their whole life and then they turn 40 or and they're like, oh, I can't eat it anymore. So maybe mine's going the other way with these beverages.
Yeah, there you go. Is it kind of more on the like citrusy side, or how would you go with it?
I definitely go that route. I'm trying to see if it has I don't know if this is this helps you at all, but I was looking for some details there, and it says it has a Vista hops. I don't know what that means.
Okay,
I don't know if that means anything to you. It didn't really to me. I just like so it says Alora and Vista hops. So I don't know if that helps people out. And I'm sure no more than I, but that was definitely a nice drink. And next time you're in town, we'll have to share one and see what you think.
Yeah, yeah. I will have to say too. I think I think you're in a decent. You got a decent little backyard there for as far as like there's some like smaller microbrew pubs there in the KC area that do a little bit, maybe not super well known, but it seems like there's a good variety of them. And I've been, obviously you've been impressed with at least a beer or two from a lot of them. So that's cool that you have those options around you.
Yeah, and I mean it's like those one types of places that they make maybe 10 to 12 different things, or maybe even less. And I think that's kind of, if you're just looking to try something different, or maybe just explore. I think those are the places I'd recommend, just because there's a reason that they only do, if you want to call it a limited number. I wouldn't call it that.
Hmm. Hmm.
They probably just feel like that's what they maybe that's what they prefer, because if you're making something, you probably like to drink it too. It's not you're just making it
Hmm.
for the heck of it. But also you understand that there's like there's a definitely a very a skill to it.
Yeah.
If anybody that's tried to do it on their own, it's nothing easy, even just
Hmm.
making your standard lager,
Hmm.
let alone anything else. So I guess if you're maybe traveling and see a place, who knows? It's always a crapshoot. But I would say any place that makes a smaller amount, of variety, that might be a good option, because it seems like the ones that I've even leaned to here, where I'm local to, it's the less is more in this case. I
Yeah.
think we can
Yeah.
go with saying that.
Like that. Yeah. Um, uh, I'm definitely intrigued by this too because I just looked up here. I had to know. I had to know about the Vista hop. So,
Yeah.
it said it was kind of created. It's an American hop, and it's known for its high yield rates and its heat tolerance. And it does have a juicy profile. Melon, tropical fruit, tangerine, pear, green tea notes. That's what they kind of describe it as. So yeah, sounds delicious. I'm definitely gonna be on try and find that. I found one too that this kind of caught me off guard when I was looking at the shelf. I was just, I was about ready to grab something else, and my eyes happened to fall in the right spot on the shelf there, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? I haven't seen this before. And I know this is, we always have trouble getting along with the folks from this state sometimes, especially when it comes to the sports. But the folks at Shiner, they've made a mango Kolsch. I'm always a Kolsch guy, and if anybody's a beer connoisseur, they probably have seen the Clown Shoes Brewing does a mango Kolsch that was pretty popular for a while. I haven't seen it as much as I used to, but that was a good one. So I was like, well, I like that beer. I'm probably going to like this one, right? So I picked it up, tried it. I have to say, not my favorite. Like I am a Kolsch guy, but there's something that's not quite the perfect execution with this one. It's still good. Like I'm gonna drink them all, but it's just not one that I would say like, oh yeah, go buy a whole bunch of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. It leans a little bit more, I think, too hard maybe into the fruit flavor, and that kind of got mixed in with the style a little bit that didn't just really pan out totally on the palate. But yeah, I mean, decent one to try, especially during the summer. I can see when you're in a good hot day again, get a little fruit added in there. So worth a shot, but again, I wouldn't put it towards the top of my Kolsch list, that's for sure. But something different to try, so I had to pick it up. All right, so as we roll in here, we're going to talk a little bit about a few different things here related to college sports. We'll, of course, maybe mention the other things that are going on now here as we've gotten into the playoffs as well with NHL and NBA. But one thing that's kind of fresh on everybody's mind, and one thing that you've probably been hearing a lot about if you are a fan, is what's been going on with your team and what your roster may look like next time around for college basketball teams, because it seems like that's pretty much been decided for most schools within the last 2 weeks, really, once the tournament ends. And I thought it brought up also an interesting, we may touch a little bit about how it's played out, for our schools here, but I think it's brought an interesting other nugget or piece to this that I guess I don't know that I fully anticipated how it would impact things. They have done a good job now of, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the calendar did get moved back a little bit, because it used to be these guys, I think, could, once their season was done, they were pretty much getting into the portal right away. Now you have to wait until the tournament is over. So at least that part of it, I think, is good. Obviously, there's still plenty of them that have already like made their intentions known, so to speak, before that. But I do think it helps out the ones that stay in it longer. They're then at a disadvantage for the next year, which kind of sucks. But yeah, I saw an interesting interview with Dusty May talking about, like they asked him, do you have any time to like enjoy the national championship, which you probably should, that's you reach the pinnacle. And he's like, yeah, maybe for a few hours. And then we got back to like looking at, well, what the hell are we going to do for next year? Because you got to do it. Like everybody's doing it and everybody's throwing the money around. So that's the unfortunate side of it. But I think the little wrinkle that I think that sucks here, and I think, when your teams start to get better, of course, then you start to run in these scenarios where maybe you have a guy that has some decent pro prospect, or a little bit at least. He's intrigued, and he wants the luxury of getting in and getting evaluated or whatever, and then you can come back out and say that you're staying in school. But the problem is now the money is so sought after, and you need to know what you're doing with it, that it hardly gives those guys even a chance to be in it long enough to know if they're going to pull their name out. So it's just it's a shitty deal, I guess, for those guys that are kind of on that bubble, so to speak. And it's hard for teams to know what to do. I mean, do you just leave the spot open and see what's going to happen? Or do you just kind of make that mutual decision that, hey, we're both going to move on and let the chips fall as they may, so to speak, from there?
I mean, so there's the issue. I think we always talk about it in the football terms, but of course basketball as well. It's just the lack of transparency, or just there's so much gray area, because you hear all this stuff all the time. It's like, well, this player had this 2 million, this player has 4 million, 5 million. Is that true or not? Like who that's so that's and so that's kind of where I always start and it's especially when you're looking at that, wanting to like make the, a roster that a team that you follow, you're like interested in what's going on there, and maybe kind of hearing people's opinions that, are covering that team, or maybe, want to be seen as an insider or that type of thing. How do you know? It's like, everyone's wants to be like, oh, they're not spending enough, they're not doing enough. Well, first of all, you don't really know what anybody's spending. So if, thing that always comes up is, well, that's just, it's pretty much pro sports now. Well, then when someone's offered, let's say if it's whatever, NFL, NBA, whatever, someone gets a 2 year, 25 million, whatever, whatever the price tag is, doesn't really matter. Throw any numbers you want. Like it's public knowledge usually, like an
Yeah.
off. I mean, more times than not, when you hear about it, it's probably already a done deal. So it's not like you're knowing ahead of time. But I mean, I don't understand why this type of thing can't be, similar, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
at least where you're, what you're dealing with there, because that's where it's for hard to me to get like too excited or too like, negative the other way, where it's like, well, you maybe missed out on this guy. It's like, well, who knows what he was offering? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he gets to campus and you meet with him and you talk about, what you want him to be for the team and the role he's going to play and all that, and you don't like his answer. So you're saying, we're not gonna, we're not gonna go forward with this guy. We're gonna go after someone else. But then the fans or media who's covering the
Yeah.
season is like, oh, he turned them down. He doesn't want to go there. They didn't give him enough money. So
Yep.
that's what makes it really tricky, is because with football, and then, we're talking about basketball too. That's always been kind of the issue since this, ability to transfer and change teams and get paid to play is kind of that's always been where I've kind of been like, I just I can't get too up or down with it, because there's too much unknown. Just, I don't, of course you want to get the best players you can, and you would assume that, just by on court or on field, ability, you're like, well, this guy probably made a decent amount of money if he's that good of a player. But it's anybody's guess unless they want to tell you or show you a deposit that was made in their account, and I doubt, no, and then unless you have that information, even the people that, cover this team day to day, or, whatever, they don't really know either. They're just going by what they hear from whoever. And the most thing that kind of sticks out to me, and I'm like, what the hell's going on, is, and I actually kind of believe this to be true, for the fact of, what type of money some of these kids are getting, or what they're turning down to get instead, is, some of these so-called agents, which, and I don't even, it's not even the type of agents that you would think of when it comes to like, Rosenhaus or Boris or those type of guys that,
Mm-hmm.
like actually like a legitimate agent. You got, people's, whoever, just some guy that started
Yeah.
some rinky dink,
Uncle Mo. Yeah.
thing, LLC, and he's asking 30-40% off the top, when it's like, I don't remember who it was, but there was a kind of tweet that made the rounds of someone that's kind of, I don't know if he's just like a film watcher or a bracketologist guy or whatever he is, but basically he's kind of saying like, it's weird how many of the, kids and families forgetting that the agents working for them, not the other way around. Which I mean, I think that was a good perspective. I don't know what kind of information he had on the issue, but that's more of the things to me. It's getting bad advice. You're going to different teams that just for this X amount of dollars. Which I mean, it's hard to turn down money in some instances, but also there's several cases where it's maybe at best a lateral move, and on court success sometimes has a pretty big impact as far as maybe your projection long term. If you're
Hmm.
on a team that you're making some kind of an impact, you might get a look. Whereas if you're scoring 20 points on a team that's not even sniffing the tournament, or gets first round exit, something like that, it might not be as beneficial for you. So I mean, I guess make the money when you can always. That's not I'm not saying just don't do anything. Don't do any, I'm not shouldn't be playing just for, the love of the school or that type of thing, but it is without, concrete evidence of, like, unless you can show a contract, which those don't exist apparently, or
Yeah.
some type of you know, paperwork or whatever. It's hard for me to kind of be like, "Oh, I can't believe they, got outbid by this kid," because who knows if they did. Maybe a school
Hmm.
is just like, "Yeah, we ain't playing that game." And you don't always have to. I mean, just because, Michigan did it this year, there's no guarantee they can do it again like that.
Yeah.
Kentucky's I mean, I guess not even Kentucky. Calipari's about the only coach in this kind of era that's been able
Hmm.
to, kind of do a clean slate every year and still have a high level of success. Most teams just don't. I mean, not only it's hard to do, it's just, I mean, it's it's not logically it doesn't make sense.
No. Yeah.
So and I mean, you got to credit him for making it work in most cases, but it's like it's just kind of putting yourself behind everything with, and you're gonna have to get some players, but you got to have that. I just think you just got to be like a mixed bag. You're gonna have
Uh-huh.
to get some decent recruits and kind of build a little bit, but you're also gonna have to snag a kid here or there, and if somebody becomes available, or maybe you recruited them out of high school and they went somewhere else and they didn't end up working out and they want to go somewhere else, then you snap, kind of keep that relationships open type of thing. But
Hmm.
it's I mean, I do you want the best players, like I said, to just kind of put a put a kind of wrap this thing up. You want the best players, but it's just so hard to know what's all going on. So it's really hard to get on that emotional roller coaster. I know a lot of people do. It's just I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you just alluded to there, it's definitely a pull of the slot machine lever, so to speak. Like, you don't always know exactly what you're getting with everybody and how it's going to mesh together. I mean, there's luck involved for sure with how this is going on. And then there's two little things to that too. Like, I was talking about a unique situation, but just for the coach themselves to even know, like, they obviously know, they have an idea of what their budget is, like what the
Yeah.
school's giving them and what they know they can work with as far as any outside help that they're going to get too. Um, but if you, like you said, if you don't know the market, then how the hell do you know how to plan your budget? Like, you have no clue. You're just blind. You're just like, okay, I'm gonna get this guy. I guess it costs this much for this guy. Okay, now how do we figure out the next one? It's like that's a jumbled mess. And like, if there was some transparency there, yeah, it'd be a helpful, I'm sure, for those coaches to at least know, hey, this is the range that I gotta have for this kind of guy, and then you make it work, just like any other business, so to speak. But that's an interesting wrinkle. And then for the players themselves, like you said, yeah, go get. It's hard to say, hey, 17-year-old kid, don't go get good money.
Yeah.
But also, in some of these cases too, you have to think about the return on a long-term basis. Like, if you know you can stay at this school and make X dollars, and that compounds, for 2 years. Whereas, yeah, maybe you can make, whatever it is, just throw out a number, $200,000 more at this school next year. But you also are at a school that may just say the next time around, we didn't think it worked out real well. You can go find somewhere else to play. So you just never know. You may make more money for 1 year, but are you hurting yourself in the long run too? You got to think of it also in the I guess, job security, so to speak, way at the same time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when you were kind of going through. I was like, yeah, and the other side that hardly ever gets brought up, and it's mostly because it's kind of a new thing still. We're just getting, but these, everyone wants to bring out the, kind of, I guess, as like a sense of pride with the crumble guy at BYU and whoever Texas Tech has, and all these big dollar people that want to be kind of they want to be out there and be known that they're the ones footing the bill.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be okay with you just coming in and giving them average type of play. So yeah, that's gonna. I mean that's I think that's gonna be I guess you're already mad about people transferring now. Just wait until some of these schools are unimpressed with this player they get that they know nothing about, and that's it too. Because I mean, some of the players that you get be like they maybe put up 20 points here, and then they come to your school and don't do a dang thing, or the opposite where you get a player that averaged 4 or 5 points a game, maybe like a couple five or six rebounds, and then they come in, but it's the it's better with your system and with that coaching, and they end up being a double double type, kind of a maybe second or third team all conference type of player. So it can go both ways. You don't necessarily have to get like, but I guess it's just for whatever a click thing or just to get people to go to your site. But they always big, I'll rank the best portal editions and all this stuff. It's like you don't freaking know until halfway through the season at best, maybe not till the end of the year, and even then it's like, well, they were good for that team, but doesn't mean that it's all kind of relative.
I always love that. You get the meltdown from one side,
Right.
and one school are like, oh yeah, thank God they took that guy from us, or whatever. And then there's others who are like, oh no, we lost. He had so much upside. We needed to keep that guy. It's like half of them are saying one thing, half the other. So, yeah, it's a wild deal. Obviously, both the teams that we follow had a good chunk of turnover. I think Nebraska ended up with some good carryover that they wanted to have happen, and that's good for their situation for sure. Iowa State, yeah, a lot of obviously. Well, they knew some of it was just seniors. There's going to be some new guys. They were able to keep, I think, the ones that they did want to keep around. But there was that one unique scenario there with Milan Momcilovic. Obviously, he wanted to test the NBA waters. When you have a shooting season like that, you can't blame the kid. Like, it's not going to get much better that as far as getting attention for what you do best. So probably the right decision, I think, for him to peek in there. And I think ultimately he might get decently drafted. I still think that's a pretty good possibility, and hope that works out for him. But it is one of those scenarios where I think if he would have had the time and both sides would have been comfortable with waiting, they would have just said, okay, well, wait and make your decision. But I think they kept talking and were just like, hey, this is, we got dollars we got to spend, and if you're not going to be able to make a decision soon enough. And he was just kind of like, yeah, I get it. Like, I'm going to go try to get in the NBA. He did enter the transfer portal as like a backup, like a lot of them do, so if he has to go to another school, he might, and that would really suck. I mean, I know he'd want to go back to Iowa State, which is the shitty part of it, but again, coaches gotta have their guys, and they gotta spend the money while they can. So that's just the weird nature of it. It just isn't always going to work out perfectly and swimmingly. And I realize anything you do with the calendar is never going to make that perfect, but it'd be nice to optimize it as best we can, so kids have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that we talked before about how it's kind of a benefit to the players of being able to see what their NBA future could hold, but also now with the timeline the way it is, you can't just sit around and wait either. So it's good that, I mean, that part is good for the player, but the other part is probably bad for it's good for the school to move forward. So I mean, there's one of those deals you just can't do anything. It is what it is. It's just, I mean, you can be upset. It's like, of course, it sucks, and you want to keep a player like that, but it wasn't anything where it's like anybody like going behind each other's back or whatever. Like that would be a thing where you're like, what the hell, bro? Like if he just pretend like he was gonna, I think I'm gonna come back, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm going to the draft.
Yeah, then he's like, yeah,
and that's maybe the way you would have had to do it in the past, because you wouldn't admit it. You would have to have behind closed doors discussions and do some private workouts and stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of the I guess nature of part of the business side of how things play out now. So yeah, it's a big loss, but definitely won't be that. I mean, guess not any comfort to you, but it won't be the last time you see something like this with and even if not in a bad way, it's just the way it has to, it's the way it's going to be when you have a player who wants to kind of get to the next level. Of course, you're going to take an opportunity if you have it.
Yeah. I guess your just quick thoughts on obviously big news with Sanford deciding to come back to play again another year, and then I think the hope all along that was Sejan was going to get the opportunity to play again, and that's going to happen. So kind of worked out, I guess, best case scenario then in that regard.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. And then, I mean, honestly, like Sanford, he might have, he might have been in the same type of situation as far as testing the NBA waters, but he had a sports hernia injury that he played with. Honestly, I think it was like the last month or 2 months of the season with, just played through it. So that would explain a couple of games where he was down, but it's not an excuse, whatever. It just happened. It sucks, shitty timing, but it does explain why he was maybe looked a little bit in a funk there for a couple games. But for him, that's still putting up 15 to 20 points, so that's kind of on a bad night. So I mean, but either way, so that kind of, I mean, I guess in one way that kind of helped because just physically he wasn't able to kind of go through the whatever he would have had to go through to kind of go through the combine and the testing and all that. So yeah, I mean, him and Frager was like the big thing to get back, because and I think Frager was pretty more of a done deal. It's just how people talk, noticing things and being like, I don't know if he's coming back. And like, what the hell do you know? Like you just see like some oh, my cousin, he was at the Raising Cane's and saw him. He didn't look happy. Like, dude, come on, like just idiotic stuff. But yeah, it seems like they kept for most people the core back, and I know that the Orm from Belmont, I guess he's can fill it up pretty good there from the outside, and then they get a Boston College transfer, a big man who actually was on AAU team with Sanford back, so they kind of have a little bit of a history there. So it almost seems like that's kind of where, I guess, if you want to call it recruiting in this aspect, is going. It's more like the relationships with the players have built with each other, because you've seen them kind of, and that was, I guess, maybe this was more of a player coach thing, but that was also when Sanford transferred the first time. It was that he had a history going to Hoiberg shooting camps, and I mean, of course, he knew Sam and his brother because they played with each other too younger. So that, I mean, I guess if you want to maybe find a formula of maybe some success, because I know even like last year heading into the season, of course, picked 14th in the conference, which was, that whatever. I mean, these preseason rankings don't really mean anything, but also the fact of just when they got Sanford to transfer, and there wasn't like, oh yeah, this is gonna, this guy's like a first team all conference type of player. They're gonna be good, and like just the afterthought. So I guess I'm kind of maybe a different perspective of some people, and it doesn't always work out, but I don't think it always has to be the big splash. If you feel like you have a coach that knows what he's doing and has a system and has proven in other places, I think you got to kind of trust them to be like, I know what kind of players I need. I don't, necessarily need the guy that you think I'm going to get. And I think they got somebody, a guard from Utah Valley, is Linhart, like a 6'5". So I mean, people are saying he's like kind of similar to like Hoiberg, but can score, and he's got a 6'4" or 6'5" compared to 6 foot. So I guess that's so there's a couple other guys I know, Illinois State guard that's still looking that maybe come there, and then I don't think the big man from Georgetown via Boise has decided yet. Fielder, I think he's almost like a 7-footer, like stretch 5 type of guy. But I mean, I mean, for me, I feel like they're doing a decent job, but I guess I don't know. It's never going to be like enough money, especially, and it's going to be a tough follow up. They had a hell of a season, so that's got to be kept in mind too. It's not easy just to run off 20 wins in a row, and then also make a Sweet 16 run. So it's there's no guarantees, but I think I feel like you got to trust what they have in mind, and the kind of the whatever the scheme and the team they're trying to fill. I feel like the coaches have proven that they know what they're doing.
Yeah. The thing as I watched some of the Iowa State guys come in, like it stood out to me again is like the one thing that is going to hurt a lot of these smaller schools, so to speak, the Cinderella mid majors, is like I feel for them, because it just get harder and harder.
When they have a good season.
Yeah. I mean, because like we got guys from Robert Morris, Northern Iowa, Bradley, Northwestern. Guy from K-State, which they become a poverty program themselves, but it's just you see all these names. It's like, okay, yeah, they're just the best of other leagues, and then they get pilfered for the bigger schools, and that's the way it is now. So, well, that'll be interesting. It's always going to be a wild affair, I guess, a whirlwind affair, getting to know some of these guys a little bit, and then getting to see how they play together, because every year it seems like it's going to be pretty different, because the composition is always going to change pretty dramatically season to season.
I'm pretty sure I mentioned this with football, but it goes the same for basketball, at least with following the college level. fairly closely. Just until used to be like a time, and then maybe this has to do with age too. But you kind of you know the roster almost before the season even started, just because you keep up with the recruiting and the
Hmm.
players coming in and all that stuff. And now it's just like not until the season starts and you see them play a few times. I don't really, you don't really take too much time learning guys
Yeah.
because who knows if they're going to be there for that much longer or what type of player they're going to be because there's just so much movement. Before you get a recruit in whatever the sport may be, and you'd be like, if you feel like you had decent coaching at least at that, you'd be like, okay, a couple of years he'd probably be okay,
Hmm.
or maybe even a year. Now it's like he might not even be there. How many players have you seen where it's like they redshirt and like, okay, we'll give next year, and then they don't even come back for
Yeah.
they just transfer. I'm like,
Yeah.
you didn't really give yourself a chance to
Yeah.
me, but I mean, I understand maybe they're kind of one of those situations where it's like this just isn't a fit both sides, and to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to give it. There's not many things in life you can give 1 year and be like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm dealing with here.
Yeah. Yeah. Iowa State had one that really, and these are the ones I think that really stick in people's craw or kind of piss you off maybe a little bit. Like they had a kid come in that they knew, I think, I believe if I remember right, like the kid already had an injury, like, and they knew that he was probably going to have to deal with it, or at least it happened right away, when he came in. So he ended up redshirting because with the injury, he's out. It was an ACL or something. So it's like you're not coming back. Sat the whole season, with the whole team, and now he's transferred. Like he didn't even
Like
try to play.
get your medical stuff taken care of while you're at this school, and then be like, "Oh, let's go on, move on
Yeah,
down the road
foot the
now."
bill for you.
Yeah,
I mean, I will say you never know. It could be the other side of things too. It could be the coaching staff didn't like the guy around the
right.
team
Yeah,
or didn't like
I mean, this could be lots
whatever.
of things. Could have had a bad attitude.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't even go to class the whole time because he's
Yep.
depressed and
Yep.
pissed off he wasn't playing. Like,
That's
I mean,
true.
there's lots of ways why it shook out. Or maybe a school did his once he's healed up and did a physical or something and didn't like the way it's healing or say we can't,
Yeah.
we don't. There's I mean, or he's it could just been an asshole too. Like,
Yeah.
there's plenty of but yeah, it just I mean, in the end, it sucks. It's just I just think it just that's more of it to me. It's like kind of my always thinking with the NIL stuff and just playing, it was like to be like a benefit and be like, this is, kind of all your, years of hard work and the kind of, rewarding you for, bringing revenue to the school and kind of, that type of thing. But it just seems like there's a lot of, hasty decisions made and maybe a lot of bad advice that's being given and accepted because it's still up to you to make the choice. Like that's probably the worst thing, man. I mean, it doesn't bother me as much when people are like, "Oh, I transfer there," because I guess the way I feel like if you don't want to be with the team that I would support, I'd be like, okay, see you later. I mean, it would suck if they're good, but it's like,
Mhm.
what are you gonna do? Make them stay and be like, you got to stay here and
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to. Like,
Yeah.
you can't leave.
Yeah.
Like it's not
Put the
like
handcuffs on him.
like a relationship. You can't just freaking make somebody stay when they don't want to. So you gotta just part ways and I guess hope for the best. But it does kind of that's more of it that bothers me than I know a lot of people just get mad about how much money is paid. And I mean, you get mad at the people that are paying it, not the people
Mhm.
that are receiving it, because it's not up to them they're not paying themselves.
Yeah.
Some,
Yeah. Yeah.
overzealous,
Yeah.
super fans, the one doing it. That's who you should be mad at if you're really mad about how much money they're making.
Hmm.
To me, it's more about like it kind of just it's I don't know, it's a quick buck and there's no such thing as that as we know in the world. So that's probably more of the issue, just not learning really, like I don't know, like the realities of life and making like serious decisions like this.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. A couple of those scenarios lead us right into this discussion too. There's an interesting proposition that's been out there, a proposal as far as rules changes are concerned in regards to eligibility. And so the talk now with this proposal, and it sounds like it has some pretty good traction as far as it may get approved. So it's basically a 5-for-5 rule. So you would have 5 years to play 5 seasons starting from high school graduation or your 19th birthday. So it will replace kind of the current situation, which is a 5 years to play 4 system. But of course, now we have all these red shirts that happen, whether it be just taking a red shirt to red shirt. That first year, like a lot of guys used to do, and it's not necessarily a thing as much as anymore because, they all want to get paid and go play somewhere. But that would eliminate that, and then also would very much limit the medical ones as well. The idea is to kind of create a uniform standard so that you don't have to have these rulings all the time. The schools aren't waiting and wondering what's the NCAA going to say about this guy's case, because we all know that it's never seemed like it's been fair in some situations. Like you see one that gets approved and you're like, oh, well, really? Why'd we do that? And then the next one, the guy's like, oh, this for surely he's going to get, and then like they come back with a no, screw you. So you never know where those are going to go. So they're trying to eliminate that process basically. And everybody I think is on board with that. Now, is it going to? Yeah, you're going to run into some scenarios still here where guys who just have bad luck, like they're a dude that gets hurt a couple of different times, but they're basically just saying at that point them's the breaks. Like you had your time, you had your opportunities to play within this window. Obviously, if you're good enough, you'll have an opportunity to go do something, later on in whatever sport it may be. We all know there's various levels of professionalism in most of these sports that we like to talk about. So I think creating some sort of uniform standard and obviously making it so some of these guys that we now believe to be pushing 30 years old out of the games in the college ranks probably is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a separate discussion, but I think there's also, I guess, a straight connection too, because if you're worried about people, leaving, because that's where we kind of almost started there, where it's like you got the graduate transfer year was kind of where, I don't know if you remember that was kind of like where that was before even the portal and NIL existed. It was like you had loophole. Someone found a loophole. Exactly. It's a perfect way to say a loophole. They found a way to, I can get one more year. Okay. And the injury thing is like, even if it's kind of like borderline or whatever, I guess you kind of, to me, I'm just like, if someone, someone was hurt, like I can understand that. But anything other than that, sometimes it gets to be a little, people got going to court and suing just because they want to play more. And I don't know. That seems like a little bit of a, where you're just, and I guess, kind of reminds you of the Uncle Rico. It's like this is gonna, you just peak there and you don't want to leave that life. You want to be the best forever. And
it's Van Wilder, man.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I mean, I think this would honestly would help at least a little bit, is with the way everything unfolded, with how you're able to move schools and all that. There's not going to be a quick fix because it just kind of opened the floodgates. But I do think this would be at least a bit of a band-aid on it and be like, this can help to mitigate that, because you kind of know what you're walking into. And I mean that's it. It's in, unless you have an extenuating circumstance, which that should be the case. I mean, unless something kind of out of the ordinary happens, you shouldn't just be able to keep playing because you this or that, or you find another loophole like we said with that one. I'm sure there's more out there. So that's and this, I guess now we're kind of past it, but even a couple 3 years ago, it's like you couldn't really do much about those COVID years, because it's like that. I mean, that was, of course, nothing anybody had ever experienced or thought could even happen. So that kind of, the timing of that combined with the new transfer rules and the money thing, that all kind of was a little bit of a perfect storm there. So now I think it'll take a couple years, but I think there might be a little bit of riding that ship here, and it won't be so crazy, and people can just chill out a little bit and maybe enjoy the games more so than but we know that probably won't happen. So, but I mean,
we can hope.
I don't know. It's 5 years to play 5. I think that's reasonable, and I think it's also maybe get you a little bit more of that getting to know, that instead of having to, like we were talking about before with the rosters, maybe you do have a little bit more familiarity with your team and kind of build a bit more of a, there's the passion side of that can be easier to it can kind of come back where you're like, you feel like supporting somebody, except for just like a 1-year deal.
And they did say, as you mentioned, there are some like big exceptions as far as like military service, religious missions. There's some things that they would, they're going to allow to kind of be exemptions of part of that. And then just like it says, there is the potential that there could be some guys that play another year opposed to the traditional, 4 that we're used to, which, for some guys, great. I mean, that's going to work out, and they luck out and they end up in a scenario where they can do that. More often than not, you run into, that's pretty rare because you are going to deal with an injury at some point usually, or you're just at a place where it didn't work out great and you're not playing a lot one year or whatever. But I think making as a uniform rule as possible creates equality across the board, and that's what we want to see. Anytime it involves a ruling from whatever governing body it may be, that's probably a good thing.
Well, that's usually one of the biggest issues everyone complains is like, well, nobody enforces or says anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're trying. They're trying. There's no guarantee, and it might not work, and it might be all for nothing. But at least there's an effort, so you can appreciate that.
Yeah. There is one other big rule change that's been proposed. This is related to college football specifically, and I just happened to come across this. This just came out a few days ago. It's the NCAA Rules Committee, and by no means is this something that's been approved yet or is set in stone. But the proposal would eliminate the week 0, basically. So it would, right now, the way it works is almost kind of the same way we're talking about right now with the damn, waivers, so to speak, or, getting a approval, is what has to happen right now. So teams that want to play in those week 0, those early games, have to get a waiver from the NCAA to be able to do that. Now they would eliminate all those waivers and exemptions, and basically the season would just move up a week. So there would be that early week, that late week in August, where you see a lot of those early games. That would become another official week of the college football season. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody necessarily would play that day either. It would just make it part of the regular calendar. And then it would also, what they're saying is they would also then make sure that teams have 2 byes built in to their schedules for the 14-week schedule, which would still go through the Thanksgiving weekend is when it would still end. So to me, makes sense. I mean, I like the idea of working in those breaks in there, so to speak, for teams, because I think anytime you can make that a little bit more uniform too is probably also helping the competition. We know how goofy that's been for some teams some years where, I think if I remember right, last year for Iowa State, because they played the goofy Ireland game, it ended up being like 3 bye weeks during the season. And then some teams have 1, so it's like, what the hell is this? Let's try to make this somewhat of a uniform type situation too. So I think it makes sense to allow more teams to play that early week, and then you can kind of, make the schedule work the way you need to.
I mean, as from the fan perspective, looking forward to games, like buys suck, but also it's understandable as far as the timeline, and also you gotta have. I mean, if you're going to talk about safety, you got to kind of have some actions about it too.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest issue is all these, and some conferences have done it forever, so it's no big deal. Like I might throw with the MAC in there in Mountain West, where you're used to playing on like Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe, but now even the big conferences all want to play on like Friday night, Thursday night, even. So that's honestly, to me, that's more of the I guess would be more of an issue than starting sooner or later, and sooner is better. And that playoff, that's one thing that has helped, is getting that postseason started earlier. But that's the biggest issue. I mean, we won't. It kind of crept up last year because people were looking ahead of like, oh, what's next year going to be? And I think it's like what the 19th or 20th of January is the championship game.
Mm-hmm.
It's something wild like that.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, the people were bitching then. It's faded off, but once the season starts again, as soon as that guy that wants to be the pour salt on whatever is going to be like, oh, guys, do you remember the playoff? It doesn't end until the end of January. So, which I agree, but also, I mean, so me, we're going to move the season, to, I guess, starting then, but then you're going to move the end of it further back. Doesn't really make a lot of sense either. So that kind of stinks. I mean, I like moving where it's at. I just think they should move the end closer to the beginning.
Yep. I don't disagree. Yeah, that's smart. And that obviously we knew that was going to be part of the problem too when this playoff was created. It is going to drag things out. How can you condense it? Now, part of that too is just the stupid ass way that they've decided to schedule it too, because they've built so many the length of the breaks between games. Because what was it? There was one round this time around, I think, because of the way the holiday things fell, it ended up being 2 weeks. Was that right?
It's
it
pretty
was
close to
goofy.
maybe
Yeah.
10 days, but
Yeah.
it was longer than I mean,
Longer than it
you
needed to be.
unless you have a bye, you're playing once a week throughout the whole season. I don't know why that has to change all of
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
sudden.
Yeah.
And I get maybe you want it to land on a certain day, but I don't understand this Monday thing, and it's nothing that's ever gonna change
No, it's bullshit.
because for some reason the NCAA has this idea of like Monday being some great championship night.
Yeah.
If anything, like as and maybe I don't know, maybe I guess I'm alone, but it's almost worse. I'd rather have it on Sunday night than Monday night
Mm-hmm.
if you have to do like a weird night. But Saturday would be ideal
Yeah.
for the fact that that's when
That's
that's
when
college
college football is
football
played.
equals Saturday. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like the whole. That's pretty much what it's ever been. Even game here too, but when you ask someone, what do you when watching football Saturday, they're talking about college football. They're not talking about anything else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, it'd be like that would be like the perfect scenario if you have a championship game on. It can be Saturday night. I don't care if it's later because I don't think most people would either because it's still the weekend, so you still have the
Mm-hmm.
next day or whatever.
Yeah.
But and also it's I guess the travel thing also makes it even maybe they're thinking they give people another pay period in there, to go to these games.
Probably. Yeah.
I don't know why else you'd extend it. So I'm like, because
Uh,
I mean, that's great. Can you imagine this? Like, I mean, I would, like, didn't end up having, but I mean, for a second, it crossed your mind of like, oh, maybe you're gonna go to a second site during the NCAA tournament. I can't imagine. I always think about when I used to go. I mean, I still try to get up there at least one day or a part of a weekend for a College World Series, but I would always think like these fans that are here for like 2 weeks. I
yeah.
mean, not only the time of it, just having to have your vacation, but also the financial commitment, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's like an
It's
amazing.
crazy.
You know, felt like I got pretty, decently wasn't like a far drive or nothing, and going to Oklahoma City and all that stuff. And you're just thinking about, I was like, could you imagine doing this for like a week straight,
Yeah.
or even like, it's just like, man, that's crazy. And then, these football, with the college football play, if you're going to maybe you get lucky and get a home game, but then you're going, from coast to coast in, but
Yeah.
like what, I don't know if it happened for anybody this year, but what can you imagine if you play like in the, the freaking Rose Bowl and then the Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl, or Fiesta Bowl, you're
Yeah.
bouncing all around, and it's going to Dallas to, from, wherever, and that's just I don't know how anybody really does it. I mean, I know people there's a lot of I guess people willing to spend and people that have, of course, means greater than I have, but I just can't.
No.
It's hard to wrap your mind around. Just not only willingly do it, but just having the means to do it and being like okay with it. Because
Yeah.
even sometimes even have the money, it's like, can you
Can you
talk yourself into
justify it?
parting with
Yeah.
it? Like, man, like this is. I mean, this could be a significant purchase on anything, or pay some substantial bills, and you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, let's just go to a game.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not of course,
Yeah.
and that's someone that is like that's pretty much my main source of entertainment, and like freaking
Yeah. You
anything
love
that I really care about watching or interested in is sports, and I'm still like, I don't know about that. Like,
it. Exactly. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, oh God. Yeah. That could get into a. I could get into a big discussion about that, but it's just like there's so many of those things too, and just like in general life, and of course, the current situation of the world isn't helping anybody's pocketbook. So you start to think about things, and you're just like, like how the hell, like what you do, and like you never want to compare yourself to other people, but you're always just like, how in the hell are they buying this thing, or are they doing this? Like, because I know that they can't do that, but they're doing it. Like,
at least, yeah.
like, it's just insane. And it's like, where do these people come up with this damn money to do this stuff? Like, yeah. I mean, I realize there are some people that, like you said, make a hell of a lot more than I do in income to be able to do some things. But again, like, still, like, you're talking lots of money, especially those big bowl games, because what the tickets cost.
Well,
The flights.
It's not even travel. Yeah, it's just getting in the game alone is thousands, and then you're like, however, if you're lucky to, even if you can drive, was maybe a little cheaper, but plane tickets are crazy now. I mean, I've always been expensive, but they're even more. And the fact of not only is it a plane ticket, and if I get it ahead, I get a good deal. You don't know where you're going till like a week beforehand.
Yeah.
So that makes there's no way you're getting a deal unless you have like miles or something, built up on like have like a rewards app or something, or a credit card that gives you airline miles, something like that. But yeah, it's
and then all the hotels, half of them been scooped up by some brokerage to begin with because they wanted it to somebody, and like, it's crazy.
You end up at Motel 6 if you can get there.
Yeah, they'll leave something on for you.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, it's crazy. That's That's a wild deal, and you're right. Hopefully, there is some course correction as far as that to condense that here at some point too, and make it make sense. And I think there's a ton of people too that are pushing, to have that next round also be at home too, rather than what we're doing right now too, which also would help that for some parts of the fan bases at least to be able to attend. And I think those atmospheres that we can create, more of them the better. We're all in agreement on that. So it'd be interesting to see, if that goes through, and then of course, if there is change down the road as far as obviously we know the playoffs going to change itself. How they manage that and how they schedule that will be interesting, especially if we're going to extend the front of the season here as well. So those are a couple of things that we wanted to touch on as far as some rule things that have been out there. Obviously, it is, getting the college football fan is getting a little bit of itch scratch just because you started to see teams get out there for spring practice, drills. There's been some schools that have had spring games, or having them soon if they haven't already, those types of things. So that's always fun to start to hear some of that news. You start to understand a little bit about, what the players are doing. You start to get bad news, especially if you're a fan of a team like I am, who always seems to get kicked in the nuts somehow. We've already got a, well-known or a well-regarded recruit at safety that tore his ACL like the second day of spring practice. That's how those things go. Such is competition in life, I guess. You're always going to get a few of them, but just it sucks when you haven't even known the guy, haven't seen him play yet, and like, he's not going to play. So, but those things are going on. So at least I guess you're getting your whistle wet a little bit.
Yeah, more so in the fall than in the spring, but the spring too, it's like almost like if you don't hear anything, that's just business as usual is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to see the stupid all caps breaking before a tweet.
Yep.
And you're like, oh shit, what is it? And sometimes it's like breaking, the wind shifted from south to north. So sometimes breaking's a little used loosely these days, but you're just kind of hoping to get through it without any like major, like even if nothing great happens, if nothing bad happens, it's like a small victory
Mm-hmm.
or something like, oh, but I mean, some of these, I mean, everyone got so freaking upset when, people are like, oh, we're not going to do spring games. It's stupid. It's a waste. I remember like that was like 2 years ago or last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's like people are having them 7-6 was that Michigan's game. And some other ones that were like, 12 people in the crowd. I thought everybody wanted these, but no one's going to them.
Yeah.
So it seems kind of funny there.
Did you see that? Did you see the screenshot comparison for the Colorado stuff? That was pretty funny. The hype for 4 years ago to like, back to 10 fans again. Nobody gives a shit.
Right. So I mean, I guess that kind of shows you exactly what I mean. I'm not saying don't have them or do whatever you want. It wasn't as big a deal as was made out there, or people don't care about as much as they wanted you to believe. Put it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Just get through without any injuries, and you're never gonna do anything where it's like to make any like. It's kind of like one of those things where what is those dumb sayings where it's like you can't lose it here, or you can't win everything here, but you can lose it here type of thing, where it's like you're not gonna do anything where it's like, oh man, this team's amazing, but you can maybe do something where like, there goes the season, and that's more of an injury thing probably, or off the field issues, things like that. But yeah, just you got to get through it, and I mean you got to have it. What are you gonna do? Just sit around all year? You got to have workouts, and you got to stay in shape and all that stuff. So it's necessary, but it's also maybe it's not necessary to be like broadcast on TV. But I mean, I get why people do it if people want to watch it, and you got your contracts with networks and all that stuff. But I mean, I kind of just had it on in the background when Nebraska was one of the first teams to play. They played like in mid-March. Like they've been over like a month, so it was an earlier than usual. And like the issue was they thought maybe it was going to go up against the tournament there because they scheduled it ahead of time, and like, oh shit. But I was like, no one would really care. It's like a good problem to have, so no big deal. But it was just like kind of different because it was so early, so I think that maybe affected things. So I mean, I guess the big news, I mean, not didn't talk about this too much, and we don't need to go too much deep into it. The big news around there is I guess a stadium renovation is like the new like the new anti-spring game thing where everybody gets mad about it. And I mean, I understand where people will be like, oh, I've been that good, but like the the quality of a stadium has nothing to do with like the team that plays in it.
Mhm.
It's not it's outdated. It's not part of it's probably not safe. I mean, it's like there's things that have been updated as far as like fire codes and what is it, ADA, like
Yep, yep.
disability access, and so that's the type of thing that you're trying to remedy. And then also it's like you probably need to take it down a little bit for capacity of the fact that people just don't really go to games in general,
Mhm.
like they used to. Like I know I haven't been for several years, and more of that's like lifestyle. We talk about that all the time more than it is like want to.
Yeah.
If I could go to every game, I'm pretty sure I probably would.
Mhm.
If it was like I could afford it and also had the time, like
Yeah, yeah.
definitely. Um, but yeah, so that I guess that's the distraction of like, whatever. But as far I mean, what I could see of it, like I thought it was actually a decent plan and it looks pretty cool if it looks anything like the
Yeah,
renderings.
yeah.
So like I'm not really, for spending tons of money, but it's also I mean, whatever. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. So I guess I don't really fall in the line with most people. Like, why don't you just spend all the money at NL? It's like that's not. I'm pretty sure it doesn't come from the same coffer. Like maybe that. I mean, I don't think they're
Mhm.
just saying like, here's our here's a 600 pile of cash here,
Mhm.
it's 600 million just sitting right here.
Mhm.
Do we want to give it to the players or put it? Oh, let's put it in a stadium. Like it doesn't really work like that. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they're going off. Well, I mean, large significant donations are going to pay for them some of that, and then I'm guessing there's going to be some fundraising efforts, and who knows beyond that, maybe they can't usually it hasn't been a thing where they've had to do any, type of tax thing or ask the public, but I don't know with economies the way they are and people budget cuts and all that, who knows where
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't it's not I think people just don't really understand. Like that was kind of my whole thing with earlier. It's like they don't really understand where the money's coming from, who's paying it, and where it's going to.
Mhm.
But they think they do.
Yeah. Well, and that's the one thing that
I mean, I don't even know. Like, I'm not saying I know exactly
yeah.
where it's going.
No.
Like, nobody does except
No.
for the one giving it and the one receiving it. That's
Mhm.
about it. And, I
Yeah.
mean, the universe, I guess, is the middleman, but
Yeah.
they're the they're the broker. But other than that, no one really knows what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Well, and that's the one thing that we have known in this whole when it's shifted to the schools are allowed to, like, we know what the school is allowed to spend. Like each school has a limit. It's what it was last year was like 21.5 million or whatever it was that they were allowed to divvy up between their athletic programs. So we know what that cap is. So yeah, it's not like they can just say we'll take all athletic revenue and give it to kids. They can't do that. Now they can make other people do that, sure, and that's been going on for ages. Now we're just doing that above the table we still don't
Well,
know the contract.
and I mean, there's always talk to like everybody's doing that too. Like, there's only a few schools that are legitimately, like, literally doing that, and those are like the if you have Phil Knight at Nike, the Oregon, and the guys like BYU, Texas Tech that actually have like a whatever you want to call it, like a money guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah.
everybody's able to do even
No.
like I mean, maybe he's not public and they have like they just have more money because like the size of the population of it, but like a Texas or something, they don't have some dude just sitting there passing out 50,
Yeah,
passing out whatever. He's giving them checks and writing whatever. Like there's only certain schools that have like that guy that's willing to do it.
yeah,
I mean, everybody probably has somebody that's from there, an alum that's like capable financially of doing it. But there's only a few guys who are like, "Yep, I'm in.
yeah.
I'm the sugar daddy or whatever you want to call it."
Yep, yep, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I of course I saw the news when it came across, and I agree with you. I think at least from what I saw with the renderings and how they were going to try to structure that, I appreciate the idea of the uniformity, of kind of trying to make the sides meet the end zone so it has that kind of seamless look, where you've got your sections that kind of match and you got the ribbon that kind of just sits in the right spot all the way around the stadium. I mean, all that makes sense. I mean, architecturally, we've seen it in a bunch of the new ones that you see built. So, yeah, I think that, and I've always been one of those guys, I guess, where I'm kind of like, I've always been in kind of the middle on that, a lot of that kind of stuff, whether it be sports or just, general things that happen in communities or whatever. Like, there's two sides of that. Like, yes, you don't want to spend money frivolously and just throw it out there and waste it, but you also do have to sometimes take some risks or be a little bit forward thinking, so to speak, to make things happen and to make growth and change happen. And that's what you see sometimes with decisions like this. So I think, the old saying, if you ain't changing, you're dying, is kind of, I think, where that falls into that bucket a little bit too.
Well, I mean, I guess guys know about this instance more than other ones. I can't say for all the stadium renovations, but I know like the revenue thing you mentioned is a big thing because I know I saw Iowa State had a pretty, I know it was like a concert or something not a while back
Yeah.
and that's what the whole purpose. Like I know they had the huge like I think it was Garth Brooks or something like that a while back, and they've got 2 or 3 concerts, and it's all stuff I don't know. I'm not, but
Yeah.
either way, like it's major concerts and they got I think Savannah Bananas are playing there too, like upcoming pretty soon. So like that's the point. It's like that's where you get your NIL money is from making money off events like this.
Yep.
And I guess if you can't really see that like long range kind of plan business model there, then that's probably where you don't understand why they're doing it. And it's not like you're like, oh yeah, let's just throw money at something. But I mean, you got to do something. I don't really understand. Like you can't just keep I mean, it's over €100 facility. Nobody's just like staying pat with it. Even like Penn State's, they're doing in the middle of a thing right now. So and I know we kind of had fun with them, but Kansas, when the iron was hot, they went ahead and like we had a good season. Let's build new, let's upgrade.
They did the right time,
and it rightfully. I mean, you got to do it when it makes sense when you get the opportunity and have the funds in hand because it's not always going to be there.
Yeah. Northwestern, the same boat. They're doing it right now too. So, it's things got to change. I mean, everybody loves new shiny things, whether that's right or wrong. But that's the way of the world. So. Be interesting to see how a lot of those, I guess, come to life and how they impact those schools moving forward. Just as far as spring games go, just hope you're not Virginia Tech and the skydiver who apparently crashed into the scoreboard. I see it. I see an image here. And it's like the chute's like hanging off of the top of it. He's like just dangling there. Apparently the dude's okay. They did cause a delay in the start of the spring game. So James Franklin's off to one hell of a start there at Virginia Tech.
Could you imagine though? Because those guys like that's what all they do is go to different stadiums or arenas and do like even like the halftime shows that you see all the time. It's like it's just another day, and then something like that happens. You're like, this isn't what's supposed to happen here. Like just that like right before you something like this isn't right. I'm sure you've all been maybe not this exact instance of a diver or skydiver or anything, but where you're like watching something, you're like, I don't think that's supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's not correct. Yeah. Oh, good stuff. So those are things that we're kind of on the docket here to talk about. Just real quick, NBA, NHL playoffs have started. NBA playoffs have gotten underway, I believe, the middle of the week there last week. Of course, they had the play-in games, and now they've started here this weekend the actual competitions. So yesterday you had the Cavs beat the Raptors, the Nuggets beat the Timberwolves, the Knicks got up on the Hawks, and the Lakers beat the Rockets. Today you've got the Magic, who are ahead right now as we speak against the Pistons. The Celtics took down the 76ers easily. Thunder also beat up on the Suns. And then there's one game left this evening yet between the Spurs and the Trailblazers. So those are the series there in the NBA. In the NHL, yesterday you had the Flyers go up on the Penguins. Unfortunately, I was watching that game to much to my chagrin. The Hurricanes were winners over the Senators, and the Wild got off to a nice road win victory over the Dallas Stars. Today, so far, there's one game that's been final. The Avalanche beat the Kings 2-1, so they go up in that series. They're the heavy favorites there. The Canadiens and Lightning are going into overtime as we speak. That's a fun start to a series. And then the Bruins are up 1-0 on the Sabres very early in that game. And then the Mammoth and Knights will play in the next game to finish off the opening games there of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So definitely a lot of fun to watch some of those series, whether you're a basketball or a hockey fan or just like the competition in general. Of course, there may be some of those too that we decide to make some fun plays on here or there. So make sure you're following along with us on Twitter at SJMBets, at Cherokee CP. We'll probably tweet out a few of those along the way here as we move through, whether that be just game results, series results, or props for some of those contests as well. So be following us along. Should be some fun. I admit, I'm kind of a off and on NBA guy. I'll get hooked every once in a while and watch pretty closely, and then there's other times where I kind of fall out of it. But I did happen to notice that first game that they got going there between the Hornets were in the other night was just a fun way to start and get things rolling. And I think it appears there's going to be some pretty good series there along the way to pay attention to.
Yeah, for sure. Offense has kind of made a comeback in that league. I know there's always kind of a thought, but I'm talking about like 80s offense where you're like 110, 120 games, so that's always fun. You got plenty of interesting players. From the Lakers' perspective, it would be nice if Doncic would somehow, magically get back on the court, but I don't know about that. It's hard. But there's still plenty, good teams out there. And shoot, I'm probably going to start getting those puck lines here pretty soon because I like messing with those during the playoffs. Seems like there's a little bit of a consistency there and get some pretty entertaining games too. And then even with baseball, the no runs in the first inning is always a fun thing to mess around with there on a Tuesday or Wednesday when you're just, maybe not have too much going on.
Scratch an itch here and there.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep, good stuff. So make sure, you're following us along there. Of course, we would love it if you would like to subscribe, get the notifications here on the podcast, available on all the major platforms. Our home happens to be at Spotify, but we're available everywhere. Just search the name and you'll find us. And then the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, get the notifications there. We put out different picks there from time to time throughout the year. So make sure you're getting the notifications when those videos come out to you to make some plays. As SJ alluded to earlier, we'll have plenty of stuff. We'll have playoff stuff going on. We've got fights that'll be coming up. We've got the Kentucky Derby right around the corner. So there's plenty that will be on the docket here sooner or later. And of course, as the playoffs progress, it always gets a little bit more fun too to pay closer attention. So should be some good stuff to have at you here as we move on down the line. All right, that's going to do it for us this week here on Every Day We're Covering. We thank you for joining us again for another week of fun. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another round. We'll see you next time for some more covers.